Mr. Chairman, before Shane Morjo gets off the Zoom meeting, I wanted to let you guys know that he did have a baby, and her name is Juniper Rose Morjo, and he's on the line, or still on here, so I just wanted to mention it while he was. Can you share a picture, Shane, possibly?
I didn't know.
Think so. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Wow. Cool.
So there's two of us, at least 1.5 of me in the world now.
Great. Probably have so much shorter than you, huh?
I don't know. We'll see. She might be taller than me.
Oh, okay.
All right, congratulations,
Way
Shane.
to go, Shane. Cool. Congratulations.
Special blessing for the holiday.
Thank you guys.
All right, Janet. Good afternoon.
I hope you're all doing well.
You came in to tell us you're not retiring, right?
So we have a couple of recommendations for the planning board position. Jasmine Corville Brown, she has a science, BA in environmental science. She's willing to serve for 6 months, but then she gets pretty busy in the field season. I wasn't able to get a hold of Ruth. Mary Rose Morjo is not available. Rhonda is not available. And then James Steele Sr. said he was interested. So I didn't know if the ID team met yesterday and they recommended Jasmine Corville Brown for the 6-month period. And then I'm still in correspondence with the gal from the University of Oregon who plans to graduate this spring with a master's in planning, who's interested in working here. So I was wondering if you would want to approve the 6-month position for Jasmine Brown, and just notifying the county that we'd be appointing someone else after that 6-month period once we can get someone else in the.
Question, Janet, does this person have to live in Lake County?
I think so.
They do?
Yeah,
Even though they're tribal?
because they're representing Lake County and the tribes. So it's a county board position.
Okay. Sorry, Mike.
So those are the two names I have to propose to you today. I didn't know if you wanted to select them, one of them.
It's council's.
Mr. Chairman and members of the council, to try to stay, keep stability and stay consistent. If James Senior is willing to stay that, I hate to put somebody in there just temporarily and then have to appoint another person. But I would recommend that we put Jim Senior in there.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I would also support that for the same reason. And Jim has been on tribal council. He knows the inner workings of our organization and a lot of ordinances and information that would be helpful in that position. So that would be my choice too.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Who's the student? And are they tribal?
She's a descendant. Her name is Melina, and Pathos, I think is her last name. I might have that last name off a little bit, but she's, yeah, at the University of Oregon getting a master's in planning. And Oregon has really good planning statutes, and they're very environmentally focused. So, I'm anxious to talk more with her in the future. And we don't really know where this position would be housed because Velda and Greg Spar don't really see the land use planning in economic development as part of that department. And I don't know what council is thinking, but it used to be in the lands department. It was originally in natural resources. So it's kind of up in the air as to where that's going to remain, that position. And that might be something we could talk about later at another time, like maybe in January, because I'm gonna extend through January anyway, so.
Ah, I knew it.
It's just too hard over the holidays. There's so much that has to get done, so.
So in your retirement, would you sit on this board?
I really don't want to be on the planning board anymore. I've served on it for many years. The stress is hard on me.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I certainly appreciate your service that you've done, Janet. So, Jim, I want to put you on the spot, but you know, I did put you on the spot.
I'm not here, third person. I do have something to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I did indicate that I wanted to serve on this county board. I wasn't asked my background in detail, so I didn't offer it, other than you who know my background. One of the things that I believe in very firmly, when you represent the tribe, you represent the tribe. You are out there, you need to conduct yourself accordingly. You carry the banner of the tribe, yet you can still work with other entities outside the tribe. And I've done that over the years. I've trained tribal councils as a federal employee how to negotiate with non-Indian entities. I've done elections for them. I served as a police officer for the city of Ronan way back when, and I was a fish and game officer. I've served in the federal service as an administrator. I know how to deal with non-Indian boards, especially around here. You'll always have dissension. And you have to be able to understand that. And how you handle that dissension reflects directly on the tribe because you've been appointed by them or recommended by them. And I conduct myself accordingly. You got to maintain a clean background because that's what they look for. Oh, just another Indian. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of what I've accomplished over the years. I've served very strongly in that position up there. And I know I can do the job. I'm just a little resentful that I wasn't even asked about this stuff or, you know, so I called and I said, sure, I'm interested in, what do I do? But either way, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it's your choice. If you feel I can serve the needs of the tribe in a respectful manner and to do it above board, with respect, with dignity, and to maintain my own personal life in a manner that is respectful and doesn't reflect negatively on the tribe or the county, because at a certain point you're going to be representing them as well. Communication is key. I know how to communicate. I can spot, you know, the big word PS. I know that we have many people in our organization with a professional background that I can find. If I need to ask a question on anything, I'll go to them. I served as a realty officer in the state of Alaska. And one of the things we needed to know, and I'll have to tell you that I'm kind of rusty on it, is NEPA, the process, and all of the things that go into a realty position decision or sale and that sort of thing. I reviewed mortgages on fee land or trust land up in Alaska, and there's only one parcel in the whole state. But one of the things that I really believe in is that I know how to get along with people and I know how to show respect, but I expect it to be mutual. And you earn that. It isn't immediate. And I feel that I can do the job. But if you so choose that I may not be able to, it's okay with me. You know, I did my thing. I earned my stripes. I got nothing to prove, you know. But I respect all of you, and I always have. I've always told you, I respect the position, I always will. So anyway, whatever you think I can do, fine. If you don't think I can do it, I'm okay with that too.
The one question I have, Jim, because I, you know, brought your name up, and Janet, this may be for both of you, is that, you know, what Jim currently does on the shoreline board, he's the chair. So is there any potential conflict of interest between those two positions?
I don't believe there is, I mean, I don't know from a tribal perspective, but I think from the county's perspective, there isn't. They typically look at that as a volunteer position, but, I was able to, count that as work time when I was serving on the board. My supervisor allowed that, so, I don't know if if you'd want to serve as a volunteer or have that be, part of this job, but, it involves a little bit of coordination with, emailing staff, about the different notices that we get every month. And then there's additional work that the planner has that's not part of the planning board position, that we can talk about at another time, but, like the liaison, with Missoula County and other things like that. But I'd be more than happy in January to sit down with you or whoever you appoint and try to help them, understand what the different, roles are that position plays.
Well, I kind of agree with, like Carol and Lynn and Jennifer that I really don't want to put someone in there for 6 months. And if Jim is willing to serve for the full 2 years or how it works out, that, I would prefer that. Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, I just would like to mention that I definitely would support Jim, and I think he'd be outstanding, and I've known him for a long time, and he's got some good history. But anyway, I definitely would support him.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The thoughts I have is I definitely support Jim in the position we're talking about, but I'm wondering if the other two will fill those volunteer positions that are still open and just give us more support. That's what I'm wondering.
Well, I know Jasmine is, busy during the summer field season. So she said she is not that busy right now. So maybe for 6 months, she'd be willing to, but it wouldn't be the official tribal representative, but we could ask her if she's willing to do that.
Who makes that selection then?
The commissioners make the selection. So the tribal council, makes the recommendation for the tribal representative. And then we send the letter to the commissioners, and then they send a letter back saying they approve it. And then they approve any other volunteers that apply. They screen the volunteers.
Well, I think it's the full consensus of the council to recommend Jim as our tribal representative.
Okay. I have a letter drafted. I had Jasmine's name because that was the ID team recommendation, but I have no problem just easily putting James's name in. And James Steele Senior, is that okay if I do that? James Howard Steele, okay.
And
And,
Mr. Chairman, I was aware that it's a volunteer position. My concern as was discussed, is it a conflict? I had to ask myself that. Is it a third party or an outside employment? Well, it's a volunteer position and it's with a different entity. So I came to the conclusion that I don't think I'm in a conflict. And I don't mind, I did that monitoring stuff and barely put in time for it, got paid for it, I didn't care. I just like doing this kind of stuff.
But thank you, Jim. Appreciate it deeply. So,
thank you. Okay, so I'll type up the letter and bring it down for your signature.
okay.
And then, the other issue is, the tiny home tour. So I think it's page 38 of your packet. Just to give you some background, so the last 2 years, we've been working with the college to build a tiny home. We bought a shell from the Amish, one of those barns. This was Anita Matt's idea. And we wanted to get a building trades program started at the college, with our ANA grant a few years ago. And we had no place to house this program. So the college gave us like a garage bay, and then we bought these, economic development bought 2 shells from the Amish, and we store materials in one, and then we finish the other one as a tiny home. And so it's ready to sell. It cost about $30,000 altogether without counting labor, because the labor was free from the students. And It's only 200 square feet. It's pretty small, but it's ready to auction off. And the college was hoping they could auction it and then use the proceeds to keep the program going. And Natalie Kenmill from GHRD is also interested in working with us on this project. She's got some funding for possibly the instructor and additional materials or tools for the DHRD clients, TANF clients. So we're hoping to keep the program, you know, up and running, but we'd need permission to sell that unit. So I'd like to get your approval on that. And then if you want to come and tour, it's Dan Dirklow was getting a path shoveled to the tiny home, and I have some maps
Did
of
he use
where.
a tiny shovel?
Yeah, he did. I have some maps of where it's located if you want to, or if you want to follow me or drive over with me, that's fine too. You want to go? Okay. Anybody else want to see it?
Oh, I'd like to see it. But before we go do that, I have one, is it consensus of council? Let's let them sell it. What's the estimated value?
Well, I never even thought about that. I just looked at, got a rough estimate of what we paid in materials and then what we paid for the Amish to build the shell. And I just put those figures together. That's where I came up with the 30,000. So, I mean, maybe 35, but I think we should ask at a minimum 30,000 just to cover our costs. This was 3 years ago. I think it was 9,200 or less.
That's why I want to see it, because that sounds, yeah, I just want to look at it first.
Sure.
I got a question.
Okay, go ahead, Lynn.
If we were to go through auction, or is this going to be a tribal member only bid?
That'll be up to the college because they'd be doing that. They'd be coordinating the auction. If you want it to be a tribal member only bid, we can ask the college to only take bids from tribal members. There were some of the students were members of other tribes and some were CSKT members that worked on it. And a couple of them are interested in purchasing, but when I said 30,000, their eyes kind of got really big. But it's a full it's a full bathroom. And all of those materials cost so much because when we purchased the materials, that's when the costs had been sky high. So.
If you want to tour it first before you give permission.
No, we only had so much money from our 2 grants. And that our grants covered the instructor costs too. And then tool belts for the students and all sorts of things, brand new equipment, you know, saws, everything, nail guns, everything is new. So we had to purchase all of that. And we have enough material to start on another one, not to finish it, but to start. We have enough material to build the frame and not buy another from the Amish, but to teach the students how to actually frame a building. And what's useful about this building trades program is that, you know, we're hoping if we do go into constructing small homes, small affordable homes, we'll have some trained workers or partly trained workers. But it gives the students experience in sheetrocking, roofing, basic electrical, basic plumbing, finish work, painting, also, you know, OSHA training, reading construction drawings. So it's a pretty good class if we could keep it going.
Okay, go ahead, Carol.
If we can reduce the cost somehow, and if we could build about 20 of them and start our small community project, small, you know, homeless project. I don't want to call it homeless project, but you know, something that we get set up for a community to be able to have places, because people live in these in other locations. And so I don't know why we can't do it here. It's a roof form.
And we are working on a feasibility study. It's going to be finished next month. And we're comparing prices between the Platinum Sheds and what they're building, which those are not very well insulated buildings, and Foothold out of Butte and, a couple of other companies, Rankage, just the pre-made manufactured homes, and then what we're working on and the cost per square foot. And what we're trying to do is get an estimate as to whether or not it would be feasible to start our own factory and, then have these students work in that factory. And actually have a structure to work out of, because they can't work year round because of the weather. You know, right now you'll see just a garage bay and, one of those sheds that they work out of. So it's a seasonal type, program right now.
Cool. Let's go look at it.
Just one thing before we go, I promised Commissioner Slotnick I'd do this. I was contacted by him, and the Missoula County, City of Missoula are buying Marshall Mountain.
Oh,
So it's used for extensive mountain biking trails. People this time of year, they sled it and ski down it, and they do a lot of different things. Yeah, but the amount of use up there is quite considerable. And so there's the lodge buildings that are still there, the main lodge. They were thinking about having a concessionaire or whatever in that building, and he wants to, the county commissioners and the city want to offer that concessionaire, whatever it might be in that building, to the tribes, since it was tribal land to begin with, to offer it for economic development. So that's the story, and I wanted to make sure, Velda, you knew about that, and Janet. So again, the Missoula County Commissioners never surprise me. They just are always on top of it. So a little bit of an opportunity there, Velda. I don't know what we could do with it, but certainly there.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I'm aware of that. And I think when we're also working on a tourism plan and certification programs. And I think when we get to that, the actual adoption, implementation, and getting tour guides ready, that's something that we could benefit from and possibly develop some kind of programming there. So that's forthcoming as well. Thank you.
Okay, well, whatever. It could be retail, it could be food, it could be guide service, whatever. Considerable amount of use though. So,
Yes.
all right, well, I'll go over and look at the shed before it gets dark.
thank you.
Thank you, Janet.
All right, thanks, Janet.
Thanks, Velda.
Are you guys adjourning?
Yes, we are adjourning.